Welcome again, everybody, and thank you again for joining our global webinar day on Maximize Your ROI using StableNet in a managed services environment. My name is Dietmar Kneidl with Infosim, and I will be your moderator for today's event. Our presenter is David Poulton, COO Infosim UK, and he will guide you through the presentation. Before I hand over to Dave, I just wanted today's audience to know that all of you are automatically muted just to keep down the background noise. So in order for us to answer your questions, you will have to type them in the questions window at the bottom of the meeting screen. Dave will be answering all questions right after the presentation in our Q&A session. Also, please note that this event is being recorded and all registrants will be notified via email tomorrow on how to access the recording. And now I'd like to go ahead and turn things over to our presenter, David Poulton. Dave?
Hi there, Dietmar. Thank you very much.
Okay, that worked. We can see your screen.
Excellent. Okay. Well, afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Dietmar said is David Poulton, and I'm COO here in the UK. So I'm just going to take you through using StableNet in a managed services environment. A little bit about Infosim first. Infosim is a leading manufacturer of automated service fulfillment and service assurance solutions for telcos, system integrators, managed service providers, and enterprise corporations. We've been established for just over 10.5 years now, and during that time, Infosim has developed and marketed StableNet, the leading unified management solution for fault performance and configuration management. Infosim is privately held with offices in Austin, Texas, USA, with additional offices in Germany, UK, and Singapore. A bit about information with regards to Infosim's global customers and business sectors. We work with some of the largest telco operators globally. On our retail and transport sectors benefit hugely from our product flexibility and the extension of our management capabilities. Our system integrators and managed service provider sectors are now delivering greater functionality through the use of StableNet's unified management framework, and that is differentiating their service portfolios. In our banking and insurance sectors, they are also greatly benefiting from the wider visibility of unified management capability, and our public sector and government benefit greatly with the additional unified management capability and cost effectiveness of the secure solutions for them. The single element based network management era is over. Forrester sees the traditional network management space becoming service oriented. The attention is on the service that is being delivered to the business. This is very true. Stacking up single framework element managers is a thing of the past and should be avoided as the cost escalates and troublesome with integration and visualization also occurs. So before I just start on the managed services, my background before joining Infosim was in the managed services areas. I worked for a large global telco for over 12 years that supported a large number of premium managed service customers, most of which were FTSE 100 and Dow Jones Fortune 500 customers. This presentation takes a look at the experiences and challenges for architecting a tool that really does differentiate a managed service, and I'm talking from experience with regards to this. A bit of background on managed services. In respect to network managed services historic views, they were primarily focused on two types of services, mainly a data service, which was typically WAN only, although some LAN deals were also included, managed basically on red, amber, green status and with performance, basic performance, generation 1 type performance management systems only. And voice services, which were traditionally PBX voice solutions, typically vendor-specific managed tools that manage those. The differentiation, if you like, in those days was more around flexible bandwidth with ISDN-type backups and some LAN-only services. the main differentiation was focused more on cost. The evolution, of course, today means that the NMS landscape is very different with service applications, big data, machine to machine. They're all growing at an exponential rate, all of which require some form of monitoring. All of these kind of new applications, etc., all sit on a platform somewhere and all need a network to deliver the functionality, which of course still needs managing. So when we looked at customer requirements for managed services and the kind of things we wanted to differentiate and be better about, we did the following analysis. We looked at market trends, and we found that there were requirements for 24/7 operational SLAs for both network and application. They wanted services to be managed and not reported, and transitioned and not transformed from what they are, which is kind of the reason they were outsourcing it in the first place. Greater visibility of the services being managed, and more importantly, a better service experience. The customer's expectations around this was that they wanted less change-induced incidents, real-time dashboards, visibility of service status, and portals. You want to be able to order things through a service catalog and have business-to-business integration so they can have awareness of what's going on when service fails, and a proactive service management, so rather than reactive. When we looked at the market offering, we found that there was weak event correlation within the tool, a significant number of incidents through change, reporting on services and not managing them properly. They were all reactive with regards to management and not proactive. Complex onboardings and real slow transition timescales. When we looked at internal drivers, so from the company point of view, they're saying you need to deliver more but spend less. So less OPEX, less CAPEX. We want greater customer integration. We want faster customer response with greater percentage of first-time contact, first-time fix. We want a service that's proactive and not reactive. And we want to differentiate what our service portfolio management tools are in order to put deal-winning propositions on the table. If we looked at the Gartner maturity model of where we were kind of more around this standardized approach, and where we really wanted to be was more at the service level sort of policy-based area of that maturity model. So we undertook a tools audit and found that we had quite a number of different tools that were being in-house developed, or tools that we were using right across the end-to-end communication delivery path. So none of this was joined up in terms of integration. You had separate teams, sometimes siloed teams, just operating one or two of these tools and only seeing certain parts of that communication delivery path. And there was no overall view, which actually then meant from a service management point of view, troubleshooting became more complex, and as a result, longevity of the trouble, finding the issue meant that we slipped SLAs, and worst of all, ended up paying service credits for SLA breaches, etc. So the challenge really was from a customer benefits point of view. We wanted to reduce service affecting incidents. We wanted to reduce the resolution times, or mean time to repair. We wanted to provision service visibility, self-sufficiency through the service portal, consistent policy governance around each customer's services that we were providing and managing and doing for them, and a proven service experience that we could say, based on the contractual SLAs and the services we've been giving you or providing you, this is your experience today. And that would have had a knock-on effect for customer retention, which was really key. We wanted to have a customer-centric management tooling suite. that had dashboards that were for customers, so we could be service transparent and give them the visibility of the status of the services. We wanted it to be unique, so it spans services. So it's not just a one-trick pony for performance, or it was like performance that went end-to-end on that service delivery model. Additional functionality, we wanted greater management capability for less cost as well. And we wanted a proven proactive management process and tool. We wanted to provide operational benefits to our operational teams. So yes, reduction in OPEX and CAPEX, but we wanted to reduce our SLA breach and provide greater service availability, do triage automation and self-heal, and simple onboarding and transitioning to basically reduce the time it was taking to transition a customer so we could bill earlier. More importantly, give our operational teams the space and time to actually do proactive management, so they can actually be more effective and, more importantly, start to provide a much greater role in issue and problem avoidance. And we wanted a differentiation. We wanted to be able to go to customers and say, we're different, and these are the reasons why, and these are our differentiations. So we want to be, make it easy for customers to integrate for business to business, things like trouble ticketing and service portals, customized dashboards and reporting, ease of contract compliance by having more control and a grip around that end-to-end delivery path. Enhance our customer confidence through the fact that we can actually prove that we are really great at monitoring service. And build true proactivity through wider visibility. So by widening the visibility through greater portal access for service teams and customers, you would naturally drive through proactive management, because a lot more people will have their eyes on what is going on. And customer empowerment, and I'll come on to a little bit more about that a bit later, but that's a real key attribute and a differentiation for the customer, because having that visibility is clearly a great asset from their viewpoint. When we looked at the hypercycle for IT operations management, we highlighted a number of key areas that we knew were really important to us to be able to provide as a fully rounded, if you like, managed service in order to get that grip and control of exactly what is happening on our service delivery paths. What we highlighted was that from an infrastructure management viewpoint, there were 4 towers of functionality that we required. The first one being network, which included node and topology, event and alarm management. And within that, we needed functionality that would cover our wide area metro and LAN, local area networks, with layer 2 and layer 3 topological views that could be auto-discovered, and event and alarm correlation when they're onboarded to be able to understand the hierarchical importance of each device as it's onboarded, and providing that end-to-end service visualization and a geographical impact if a problem goes down and what is effective, and being able to pinpoint that through things like root cause analysis, so you can highlight the problem area within seconds, as opposed to having different single element managers and tracing through each one, trying to find what has caused the problem, and then only to find that the delta times are inaccurate and causing issues where you're not even looking in the right place. So getting rid of all that kind of stuff. We wanted all these functionalities to be integrated as well, in order so we could get that vendor agnostic end-to-end architecture of each service type channeled up into that network tower of technology. Okay. The second tower of technology was network configuration and change management. What we needed around here was asset discovery and inventory. We wanted to know dynamically what hardware was there, and we also wanted it to be able to feed, if necessary, up into a confederated CMDB where our dynamic network inventory information could be passed to. We wanted the tool to be able to do configuration backup and restoration, because backing up config that has changed, being able to do configuration differences. A change has happened on a particular site last night, and today they've got performance problems. Being able to quickly identify what has changed through config and being able to restore the previous configuration very quickly in order to mitigate any SLA risks and maintain a great service level is key to any managed service. Asset and configuration change management. So as assets get swapped out because they fouled, or configuration has changed because more QoS is needed, or higher bandwidth, new cards have been put in. We need to track all of that asset and config change through the life cycle of the device that's being that's delivering part of that service delivery. And we then want to apply compliance policy and govern those policies so we can have tighter control around configuration. So I think there's a Gartner statement that says over 90% of incidents around networks are change induced. That's people going on and changing things, unauthorized changes, and causing service loss or service degradation, and having a grip around who's changing what is one thing, but being able to apply compliance and governance so they can't actually do it, but that you're still aware of them trying to do it, is fundamentally needed for maintaining high service availability levels. And lastly, we want to be able to event and alarm action management. So that's what I was just talking about, understanding exactly who's changing what, when, and who, and why. So, and again, we wanted this suite of functionality fully integrated within that tower of technology, and being vendor agnostic architecture across the end-to-end delivery, bringing all that information up into that NCCM function. The third tower of technology is around lifecycle management. And lifecycle management, some people may think is not important, but I can tell you it's very important in a managed service environment. And the reasons are this: if you've got, you want to be able to report on your assets, both hardware and software, from an end of sale, end of life, end of service support viewpoint. So the pure reason is that yes, you may carry on supporting it, and the vendor has announced that it's end of life or end of support, but the point is that if it fails and you've got no support and you can't get another unit and you're paying service credits, you have a problem. And so you need to manage the estate that you're managing for customers, whereby you can say, these devices are going end of life. This is the workaround in terms of replacing those devices. And if you don't want to do that, then we'll still manage them, but we can't guarantee the fix on them due to the fact of the announcements around end of life, end of sale, etc. And so therefore we won't be paying service credits on them anymore. And that kind of management is very powerful, and it also proves to customers that you're in total control of their networks. The other functionality around that that's very key is vulnerability management, because with vulnerabilities that are announced by vendors, you want to be able to check your configuration CMDB to ensure that your estate is not affected by those vulnerability announcements, or there are sections of your estate that is affected by the vulnerability, and therefore you need to apply for a change to do the workarounds to mitigate those risks or any risks around those vulnerability announcements. So that's key, and that works hand in hand with also the patch management. And the patch management being, being able to schedule and update iOS upgrades, for instance, on Cisco routers, or simple configuration changes or complex configuration changes to mitigate any of those risks caused by those announcements. Again, around that life cycle piece, we wanted that to be fully integrated. So again, across our vendor agnostic architecture, our end-to-end service delivery is all being tightly managed from a life cycle function. And our last tower of infrastructure technology is focused more around performance. The performance management element of StableNet's unified management framework is a third generation performance management. It has a lot more functionality than the likes of things like InfoVista and things like that. So what you have with this, we needed to have network and service availability. So we want to monitor service availability. We want to monitor all the devices availability in that and correlate that up to whatever service that's being delivered, so we can monitor a whole service easily and effectively. We want to be able to do the utilization and capacity, and based on trending, we want to say, well, okay, what's the bandwidth on these particular circuits going to look like in 1 month's time, 3 months' time, 6 months' time, based on the trending that you already have. And then you can apply thresholds and SLA thresholds and OLA KPIs, etc., around those that alarm and alert you when SLAs are being neared or breached, or worse, seriously breached. So, but you can get the control and that and notification around that before it becomes a problem, and that's the key to managing a successful service from a performance perspective. You also want to event and alarm management around that. So if something, from a performance viewpoint, has caused SLA breach, you want to be able to understand what the event and what the alarm and where it's actually occurred. And you need analytics and reporting, so you can start to provide the dashboards and reporting functionality that you require in order to basically send out to customers or have customers be able to access. Again, we wanted this this suite of functionality around performance fully integrated, for that end-to-end service delivery. So, part of that meeting the challenge was that we identified the 4 towers of technology that we required based on our hypercycle requirements. Based on those towers of technology, the functionality within them. Now we needed to identify how we were going to provide that functionality. More importantly, we wanted that functionality integrated. That was also going to be a challenge. For our tool selection criteria, we essentially looked at capability. So from a capability viewpoint, what did we want? Well, we wanted enriched functionality. We wanted it to be vendor agnostic, indeed support multi-vendor device types as well. We wanted real-time dashboards and reporting, and we wanted repeatable deployment support. So if you've got a standard way of delivering a particular service, make it repeatable. So everything is, consistent across that estate or consistent across that service. So everyone knows exactly what and how that service is delivered, managed, and more importantly, reported on. And we wanted carrier-grade performance and scalability. So we wanted it to not just do a few thousand devices, we wanted it to scale beyond 100,000 devices. We wanted it to be flexible. So in the flexibility criteria, we wanted, it needed it to be agile so it could integrate with things. StableNet is agile because it's SOA-based, it's service-orientated architecture, which means it's easy to integrate with and pull information from, and indeed push. We wanted customizable SLAs because a lot of our customers, yes, you have standard customers and you can be, you can police your SLAs and say this is it. But at the premium customer level, the big customers, they want customizable SLAs for particular services, and they need to be agreed as part of the contractuals. And you need to have a tool that's flexible enough in order to configure those. We also wanted customizable reporting, so having the ability to not only monitor and manage things, but be able to report or actually customize a report that can have anything we want in to be able to provide in a single report. Really flexible. We wanted that. We wanted multiple optional deployment architectures because one way doesn't fit all. We wanted something that was multi-tenanted, something that was dedicated, and more importantly, something that we could just deploy remotely and leave running, siloed. We wanted a service that we could rapidly stand up to onboarding and timescales. Increase the onboarding and make sure it's much quicker. We wanted strengths in the tooling that we chose, so that could be compelling solutions for our customers. Ability to create, use the tool to create our own unique selling points, so that we can give service transparency to and enable that proactive management that we talked about. And having mobility support, so customers on the move or service teams on the move can actually view what's going on from a service perspective. And we wanted it to be able to support virtualization, because if we were going to get the benefits of a unified tool, we needed to get the benefits of virtualization around a platform perspective, so we can easily scale the platform along with the tools. And the other important thing was cost. We knew if we were stacking up individual framework element managements, it was going to be too costly for a managed service provider, and that's what today's like in most managed service providers, and they end up only doing half a job because it's too expensive to put all of those towers of technology around a service for a customer at a cost that's sensible, and one the customer will pay for, and two, or the service provider will provide as part of the service. So it's very important that costs are kept under control, but at the same time you've got your functionality and flexibility and strengths around it. So cost efficiencies around the tooling itself from a CapEx and OpEx viewpoint. We wanted a flexible costing licensing model that allowed additional licenses to be flexed up and down wherever we wanted and be able to move from customer to customer. And wanted annual annuities for software license support to be a level whereby it was across all customers as opposed to individual ones, and costing much more in the process. And we wanted a platform that was also flexible from a taking advantage of the new Flex Compute virtual VM environments, as well as being appliance-based for those siloed networks, etc. And we wanted our support model to have a cost base that was much more efficient by having teams that are multi-skilled in kind of doing this unified tool. So our tool selection criteria come up with some interesting points, and I'll just highlight a few here. A lot of the tools that we already had, because we kind of done that analysis on that, and tools that we looked at from our analysis with people like Gartner and Forrester, and ones that we spoke to, we found were fairly weak in functionality. Some of them had great functionality, good quality, but they had real poor integration capabilities. And some had great functionality and the integration capabilities were fantastic, but the licensing costs and annuity costs were just, staggeringly expensive. We even looked at multifunctional tools like performance with event and alarm management put in, but that was only event and alarm management for performance, so it didn't cover everything. And more importantly, whilst it was great quality and the functionality was great, the deployment model again was such that costs and the maintenance would be at a premium. We even turned to open source, and whilst there are some really cool things in open source like Xenos and Nagios or whatever, there are some great tools in there, but the point is they lack, we thought that they would lack the expertise around the support and training that you get from a proper vendor. And more importantly, would customers see this approach as a possible security issue? And they would not be taking our tooling requirement or around their infrastructure seriously enough. And we felt that we could lose business, or more importantly, be in some sort of problem area if we went down the route of open source. But we were using a tool, and the tool was head and shoulders above the best, and that was StableNet. And we were just at the time using it from a performance management viewpoint. And when we started to, as part of our tools analysis, look into the other functionalities, we realized that there was way more functionality in this product. In fact, the product had all of the functional towers of technology that we required. Some of them needed a bit more development, etc., but they were all there, and it was a real eye-opener for us. The StableNet framework today, essentially you have an instrumentation layer. These are basically agents or collectors of information, SNMP, syslog, NetFlow, and you can run action scripting and self-heal scripting and that kind of good stuff around it. From an agent technology viewpoint, you can deploy agents remotely or locally, and you can have any number of agents deployed. And you can deploy them in high availability mode, so in the event of failure you're not going to lose anything, you're still going to maintain service for those critical areas of the network. Because of the flexibility around the agent technology and the capability around them, it meant that you can deploy them wherever you like. The main thing is the communication path back to the processing layer, or the unified middleware layer, was just on a single TCP 5100 port, and there was an option for that port to be encrypted. And the reason is that in most cases you would probably deploy agents in a local way and bring all of your SNMP, syslog, and NetFlow, etc. data all the way back to those across the network to those collectors, either via management LAN or across the same network. But there will be areas of a customer's network that is deemed from a business protection point of view too risky to open management ports to allow you to manage inside. And those areas are where the agent technology really comes into its own, where you can deploy a remote agent into a secured or highly secured area, and you can basically connect all your DMZs or whatever you have in there into that. That can then manage that estate absolutely perfectly, with only one port being required to be opened, which is the TCP 5100 port, back to wherever your unified processing layer is. And that has an option of encryption as well to add that extra layer of security on top. Within the processing layer, or the unified framework management layer, we have that configuration management piece where we had all that lifecycle, CMDB, auto-discovery, activation, compliance, vulnerability information. And all that functionality is built into that product within that processing layer. As with the fault management, for event and alarm, root cause analysis, threshold alarming, geo impact, etc. And the same with the performance side of things around capacity planning, KPI, SLAs, etc., network service visualization, analytics, all that kind of good stuff. And that's all in the processing layer of StableNet. And then and what happens there is all that data is being passed from the agents up into the processing layer where it's all crunched and all the data is produced. We typically have an Oracle database that's connected to that, although we also support MySQL. We have thick and thin client access. Thick client GUI-based access is primarily used by anyone that's configuring the system or administering and creating reporting, etc. is used normally by the thick client. The thin client access is for reporting and portal, thin client access for dashboard views, etc. We also have integration for authentication like THECHALLENGE or Radius, LDAP, etc. And then on top of this processing layer, we have a very flexible API, suite of APIs that we can then interconnect into any number of requirements at the top end, like trouble ticketing systems, business to business, inventory, portals, apps, machine to machine. And what I mean by that is, being able to put extending the agent technology through low-cost agents into things like retail outlets to monitor electronic point of sale, making value-add information or creating value-add, that kind of stuff. From a deployment perspective, I spoke about this. We have the multi-tenanted option, which is really around having that shared processing layer, but having dedicated agent technology for each customer. So this, for your standard or enhanced customers, is an ideal way of managing in a much more cost-effective manner. Also have dedicated deployments, and this is where you have dedicated processing layers and dedicated agents that are all set out in a way that's completely separated in order to meet those high-end customers, premium customer requirements. And then we had siloed, secure, complete in-a-box solutions so that you can just drop in anywhere. And this is really suited to our public sector and government type areas where, or utilities companies, areas of business where they've got so much protection that actually they just need a total solution within that area to manage it. So you have that flexibility around the deployment. In our POC, a proof of concept and proof of value, based around the tools criteria, for capability, flexibility, strengths and costs, it ticks all our boxes. Our differentiated framework meant that we had this complete end-to-end control and visibility of the communication delivery path from from hosting right the way through to delivery of the system from an infrastructure point of view, feeding up into our 4 towers of technology with our Oracle or SQL databases, our thick and thin client integration, with our business-to-business IT integration for trouble ticketing, auto trouble ticketing, raising CRM and inventory, and authentication I spoke about, THECHALLENGE Radius. Integration into telco for use with NetCall or smarts, and portals for customer visualization and transparency purposes and service catalog integration, customer visibility through the service views of the portals, etc., and machine-to-machine mobility apps, which I spoke about earlier, around things like retail. What this enabled us to do is provide a differentiated framework as part of that, and also differentiated views. So where we had application, from application platform, the LAN, handoff to the WAN, handoff back to the site LAN, end user device, end user, we could feed up into our instrumentation layer, collection, feed, run action scripting, and run certain automation self-fill processes that we may have scripted up. From there, we could feed up into our network operation and field service support layer and provide those dashboards that they require in order to see what's going on that service delivery mechanism. And we could correlate a view of that, a simpler view of that, up for our service management and incident and problem management teams, whereby they could look at individual service types, look at the SLA and availability and round trip time and mean TTR, and the geo impacts of what service problem has occurred and where it has occurred. And again, do another level of correlation up, whereby executives and customer service experience can be seen, based on individual customer types and just a basic dashboard around availability or experience of all of that that's going on. So you can start to, the flexibility in the product means that you can start to differentiate your own views and differentiate your own way of doing things that actually makes your service offering unique, because you can create your own USPs with the product. So that's what makes it even more attractive. Some of the differentiated views that we created were, looking at individual service types from a, an operational viewing point, down to, what was the geographical impact of something happening or occurring, or looking at a particular service like VoIP and understanding what the availability and status is of all of the components around the CUCMs and gateways and WAN and handoffs, etc. is, and being able to drill down further into that topological view to actually understand if anything's broken or indeed where it's all physically connected together. And at the service layer, being able to provide to your dashboarding tools, whereby you can look at the, from a service management point of view, they can look at individual services and what the operational status is, any event alarms and what the geo impact is of those alarms and live changes, etc. Being able to drill into those and look at, the service events or news and what the availability has been. So they don't even have to bother now to go and see operations as much, because they can see what's going on from their own views. So in my experience, there's been a proven differentiator, and it's been a proven differentiator because of the fact that it absolutely assists in winning, it's proven to win large premium customer bids. It enables complete ITIL service alignment across an entire organization. Provides a complete infrastructure management control and cost efficiency around the tooling that's used. It provides greater customer visibility through the portal offerings. So service transparency is a real key attribute to what customers require nowadays, even though not everyone still thinks that way. It is the way that everyone's going. It builds greater customer confidence of the service being managed as well, because it's not just being reported. Customers are seeing what's going on. They want that. They see you as an extension to their, their IT. Greater service availability, because of the much more control and grip you've got around the network, means that you've got your service credit regime under control, and you've got happy customers. Reduced number of calls for information and service requests to the service desk, allowing the service desk to be more efficient, because they're not taking as many calls, because the visibility of the customers get, well, what's going on that the customer now has. So there's always knock-on effects that are good. Assists with contract re-signs, because they're really happy with the service levels and performance they're getting. Proven upsell capabilities through the additional functionality. So you might have a standard service that you just deploy one tower of technology to, but offer the other towers as part of your service catalog to automatically provision as part of an upsell capability through your service catalog. the proven unique selling points, if you like, are that greater visibility of the service performance through the integration of the portal, a greater functionality of those towers of technology, and the status of the service that's providing the right views to the right teams through the user role management and the reporting dashboards. It builds that true proactivity again through that same thing, because you're widening the visibility of what's going on with the service, and you're being able to access information instantly without having to request it and then await a response. And several days later, still not got the same response. Customer feels more. This is really key. The customer felt more empowered and in greater control through the greater visibility and functionality they had. And indeed, it made them feel better and made them have a better working relationship with their own peers and their own companies, because they had that visibility of what was going on. Real benefit. Return on investment. Return on investment is normally achieved easily within the first 6 to 12 months, depending on the size of your estate and managed service customers, and not just existing but any new ones you'd make. This is really achieved through the consolidation of the existing element management, the platforms and support cost savings, and software maintenance annuities, and any additional element management license you may have procured as part of either required growth within existing customers or new customers coming on board. Hosting environments free out. When we did this, we freed up a lot of rack space within our hosting environments. Reducing a reduction in power on calling, which is hard to monetize, but it is considerable. Service credits, big thing. The greater service management control achieved, sustained high levels of service availability, resulting in significantly reduced service level breaches, thus reducing overall service credits. £1.3 million in service credits saved on one customer alone, just in 12 months, through to having tighter SLA, tighter control, and more importantly, governance and policing around the configuration management. Automation, automated scheduled configuration changes with automated iOS upgrades, saving around 30k per month in overtime alone for field engineering to actually perform this. And it's not about saving OPEX, it's about being lean and maximizing your margins by giving a great service, maximizing your margins, and keeping control of the maximization of those margins through the tight control around configuration management and those kind of things that affect service credits if you don't have it. Okay, we've got about 5-6 minutes left here now to answer some questions. Any questions that we don't answer, we will certainly reply back on email. So I'll hand you back over to Dietmar at this stage.
Thank you, Dave. Actually, we have a really quite active audience today. We've received a number of questions, as you just said. Those of which we will not be able to attend to, we will address those directly by email or call, whatever. Let me just pick a few. First one, on the differentiated framework slide, you mentioned machine to machine. Could you explain more, and in what context?
Sure. So on machine to machine in this context, I'm really referring to things like value add upsell opportunities that you can, for example, take to a retail customer that has distribution warehouses and stores. You could deploy a StableNet agent or low-cost agent collector, for instance, within these locations for a couple of $100, and monitor devices like electronic point-of-sale, EPOS systems, IP-enabled alarm and calling systems, or electronic entry devices, IP refrigeration, etc. And basically take all this monitoring and availability data and feed that data from StableNet, if you like, into a bespoke app that you've created for that customer, for those store and distribution warehouse managers to look at the availability around the warehousing and stores that they're looking at. More importantly, you can correlate that up to regional managers so they can get a regional view, and up further to executives where they can get a global view. So yeah, that's what I mean by that.
Okay, I guess that pretty much answered that question. Let me pick another one. How would we go about providing the right views to the right teams using StableNet?
Well, essentially, you would most likely discuss the reporting and dashboarding requirements with your operational service teams and customers to capture what their specific needs are. Or you may already have those templated somewhere. Effectively, you just then need to transpose those into the configuration reporting engine template for StableNet. And then through the role-based access systems, you can then allow the nominated users within those specific teams or business areas to then access those dashboards.
Okay. Let me pick a final question from the selection we have here. What kind of business-to-business integration have we been done using StableNet?
Well, B2B is really becoming more nowadays a prerequisite from a customer requirements perspective. The types of B2B integration we have completed or have seen our customers complete are typically focused more around triple ticket integration for auto ticket generation of a major event, so they get awareness on the business side of their trouble ticket system as well as ourselves, or as well as the MSP. Or it's been providing access feeds for specific views from the portal area to be fed into their own customer portal for their own teams. So that's really around the B2B integration stuff that we've seen today.
All right. Thanks very much. That was, I think, pretty insightful. Well, we still have a number of questions but as you mentioned before, we're running a bit short on time. We don't want to, steal more of our attendees' time than we've actually said that we're going to do. So we will attend to these questions via email, and don't worry, every of these questions have been recorded. They're all in our reports, so we will attend to each and every one of them. And well, thank you very much, Dave, for the presentation and the Q&A. Since you brought up the slide already, maybe a few words on the solution brief we have.
I'll go back one.
Bring it back.
The solution brief covers everything I've spoken about in this presentation and a hell of a lot more. So I suggest it'd be a good read for you guys. And you can obtain this by simply going to www.infosim.net/MSP and just downloading it from there. And any feedback on it will be greatly appreciated.
Okay. Also, because I've just received that as a final question, if you would like to get a PDF version of the PowerPoint slides Dave has been using with this presentation, just drop us a quick mail at sales@infosim.net, or you can also type the request real quick within the next 1-2 minutes. We'll keep the session open. Just type it in the questions window, and we'll make those available to you as well. Well, wanted to thank everyone for joining our session today. As I've mentioned in the introduction, a recording of this webinar will be made available to all of you tomorrow via email. And again, if you have any other questions, just please feel free to contact either me, myself, or any other member of the sales staff with Infosim. Thanks again for joining us today. Thanks again, Dave, for your presentation. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.